Hello, 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 world. This is Louise Hicks, your host of Aim to Purpose Spiritual Empowerment Hour. And welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you to all of my supporters. Please subscribe if you haven't seen the podcast before. There's a lot of content that's vital and important information. Share, share, share. Give it a like, leave your comments, thumbs up, and we're going to talk about the Afrikaners that your president, Trump, has brought over to America because they are stating that they are suffering from discrimination and they are considering themselves refugees. But let's go ahead and share this video because President Trump supposedly wasn't allowing immigrants to come into the country, from my understanding. So let's see what he's doing now, in which I'm not surprised at whatever he's doing. I am not surprised. So let's go ahead and share and see what CNN Anderson Cooper has to say about these uh, so-called refugees that are being shipped over here from South Africa.
You may recall that on the day he was sworn in, President Trump signed an executive order, effectively stopping any refugees from being allowed to come and resettle in the United States. Now, there's an act passed by Congress called the Refugee Act, which allows for as many as 125,000 refugees in this fiscal year, people who can prove they're being persecuted or fear persecution because of race or religion or political beliefs. And nowhere near that number has been allowed in by the time Mr. Trump took office and shut it all down. But just a few weeks later, President Trump announced that he was making an exception, and not only that, he would expedite the processing of refugee claims by one group of people from Africa. Now, you might think it's some women and children who've been maybe sexually assaulted in the conflict in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, a place that's seen fighting for decades. On this program, we reported on the violence, the plight of people there in a series of programs in 2006.
What has gone on here is simply extraordinary. Over the last 10 years here, there has been major fighting between a number of different groups. It has been the deadliest war in our lifetime, the deadliest war since World War II. Some 3 to 4 million people have died in this country, and their deaths have virtually gone unnoticed.
And there's a whole new round of fighting that's been going on in eastern Congo between the government and an armed group called M23. Thousands have died, hundreds of thousands displaced, and widespread reports of sexual violence against women. But President Trump hasn't allowed refugees from there here, nor from Sudan, where there's been terrible fighting. The only Africans President Trump has paved a quick path for are these South Africans. And yes, they are white. They are Afrikaners, descendants of Dutch settlers to South Africa. This is the first group of people granted refugee status to enter the U.S. since the president entered his second term. On February 7th, President Trump signed this executive order carving out an exception for the Afrikaners, the white minority who created the racist apartheid regime in South Africa and ruled there cruelly and brutally until 1994. When black South Africans, the overwhelming majority of South Africans, were allowed to vote for the first time, and they voted for that man, Nelson Mandela. Afrikaners took land from black people in South Africa, repressed them, and in the 3 decades since the end of apartheid, they still have all the land they took. Black South Africans, who make up over 80% of the population, still only own around 4% of private land. Now, President Trump was asked why these Afrikaners were allowed to enter the U.S.
Why are you creating an expedited path into the country for Afrikaners but not others?
Because they're being killed, and we don't want to see people be killed. It's a genocide that's taking place that you people don't want to write about, but it's a terrible thing that's taking place, and farmers are being killed. They happen to be white, but whether they're white or black makes no difference to me, but white farmers are being brutally killed, and their land is being confiscated in South Africa. And the newspapers and the media, television media, doesn't even talk about it. If it were the other way around, they'd talk about it. That would be the only story they'd talk about. And I don't care who they are. I don't care about their race, their color. I don't care about their height, their weight. I don't care about anything. I just know that what's happening is terrible. I have people that live in South Africa. They say it's a terrible situation taking place.
Well, let's stop that right there because President Trump, you know that you are not telling the truth about you don't care what race, quote unquote, that these people are, because South African, I mean, well, not just necessarily South African, as Anderson Cooper has pointed out, they are 80% of the population, yet they own only 4% of the land, because these people came over and took it for the resources in Africa, because we know that Africa has the minerals and so forth that these people came over and exploited for, so they could steal the diamonds, all the different resources there in Africa. So you're not telling the truth, and you know you're not. And he just pointed out how these Africans, the Black Africans, are suffering over in various parts of Africa. And if you didn't care, why are you just bringing over the white South Africans? Because that's all you're bringing over. You're just bringing over the white ones. And we're going to continue with this video in a minute. However, this is really part of your politics, though, which I'm not surprised, because you're only bringing over the white South Africans who are claiming they are refugees when they're really not. They're not refugees according to research that is coming out of South Africa. And you are deporting people here, and you, on your, as Anderson Cooper has also pointed out, what you said you were going to do, all these deportation, you weren't letting any more than 125,000, I believe is what he said. However, you chose to bring these white South Africans over here who are claiming to be refugees, and they're really truly not South African. They're Dutch and from other countries who settled, like a lot of people, coming over to use the South Africans, use the resources when they have violated these Africans. And you're talking about killing them. Look at apartheid, what happened. So get off of it, because you have a different motive, and I'm not shocked by what you're doing. So you need to stop. So let's go back to what Anderson Cooper has to say, finish up his talk here, because that's not true what you're saying.
So we've essentially extended citizenship to those people to escape from that violence and come here.
The idea that there's a genocide of white farmers going on in South Africa is just not true. It's absurd. And that's been debunked by a number of organizations, both inside and outside of South Africa. But it's become a rallying cry for the some right-wing elements inside the country, and has echoed all the way to America. Let me just go back to Sudan for a moment. An actual genocide has happened there, according to the U.S., as two warring factions battled for control of that country earlier this year. The U.S. accused one side, the RSF, of committing genocide. More than 11 million people have been internally displaced, while millions more have fled the country. That's according to the UN. They aren't allowed to be refugees here. And on top of this, the Afghans who worked alongside U.S. troops during the war as interpreters and guides and fixers, Afghans who fought for the United States, helped save American lives, and were allowed here under a temporary protected status. Well, now we learn that status is not going to be renewed next week, according to the Department of Homeland Security, which means many who helped save U.S. lives may be deported starting in July. Joining us now is New York Times columnist Nicholas Kristof. Nick, you say this whole situation upside down. The idea that there's a genocide of white farmers, I mean, why do you think the Trump administration is doing this?
Well, I mean, he's completely turned refugee policy upside down in ways that reflect racial discrimination. I mean, he's not, the Afrikaner farmers are not suffering from that. It is true that some have been murdered, but black farmers have been murdered at even higher rates. And, you know,
right, there's a huge crime rate.
Crime
rate in South Africa, crime is a huge problem. But according to organizations there, there's been no forcible taking back of confiscation of land at this point.
Not at all. And, you know, it is true that there was legislation passed in January that theoretically creates an opportunity to confiscate some land without compensation. That has not been implemented. Nobody has had their land taken away. And these Afrikaners are among the most privileged people on the entire continent. They are they are assets, or the white South Africans have assets 20 times greater than those of black South Africans on average. And you just mentioned Sudan, the world's probably worst humanitarian crisis right now. In Sudan, I've seen a man who had his eyes gouged out as a reflection of that genocide with a bayonet. In Congo, which you also mentioned, I saw children who were gang raped because of their ethnicity. That is the world's worst mass atrocity since World War II. In Myanmar, I talked to a Rohingya mom who had her baby pulled from her arms and thrown into a bonfire. That is plausibly a genocide. But none of those people have any right to be accepted to come to the U.S. as refugees. And instead, we bring in, a group of people who don't remotely qualify as refugees. But what distinguishes them is that they are white. And as the son of a refugee, I just find this makes a mockery of the entire principle of refugee status.
Also, the U.S. has actually cut off its economic assistance to South Africa over this as well. So it's not just not letting black South Africans in or other people from other parts of the continent. There's now a cutoff of aid for HIV medication. I think South Africa gets about 17% of their of the money that they use for HIV treatment in South Africa comes from the U.S.
And that, as you know, has happened across the continent, that there are kids dying right now across the African continent because they can't get emergency food aid, which costs maybe $70 to save a child's life, because they can't get AIDS medication, which costs 12 cents a day. We can't afford that, but we were willing, America was, to provide a plane to bring 49 Afrikaners, white privileged Afrikaners, to the United States and give them expedited refugee status, when meanwhile there are 12,000 other people who have already been approved and gone through a multi-year screening and have flights booked. In some cases, these Afghans who saved the lives of American troops, and now they're held off, and we're not admitting them.
How ridiculous. And this is your president that you voted for. And this is what he is saying, as Anderson Cooper has pointed out. He is lying. He's not telling the truth about these so-called Afrikaners. They're not really Afrikaners either, because they're descendants of Dutch, French, we don't know what else. But he's bringing them over here while he's deporting other people. And this system is so corrupt. Nothing but corruption. That should not be. And he made sure they are white. And as you heard, the atrocities that are being committed against Black Africans. And he's saying he didn't matter. Oh, it doesn't matter what ethnicity they are and blah, 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 which is a lie. It matters because he's all about MAGA, apparently. Make America white again. And I changed the G to W. It's about make America white again. That's what my perspective is that he's talking about. So, and it's obvious. And these people are the most privileged. They've come from their country to go to Africa so that they can reap the benefits of the resources there. That's what they're doing. And now they're claiming they're being persecuted, but some Africans have a different take on it. And some Americans, white Americans, are pissed off about it. And let me share another video with you to tell you what South African, of two women, one woman from South Africa is telling you what she knows about this lie. And the other one is from America, who is telling about what these people will be up against since they are coming to America. They're not going to have it the way they thought they would. So let's share what this is from ladyboule, where she has brought these two white ladies on, one from, as I mentioned, from South Africa and the other one. So let me go and pull that, and we are going to share it so you can see what they have to say, and it's not what you may think. So let me find that video real quickly here, and we're going to see what they are talking about. And also, the church knows what's going on. So I'm going to share that with you so you can see this church that had partnered to accept refugees is now has bowed out because they're saying these people are not refugees. They're coming over here to help make America white again. It appears that's what this is all about, or growing the white population since it seems to be diminishing while other populations are growing. So other ethnic groups population. So ladyboule, we thank you for this video and allowing me to share it, because there's a lot going on out here and we need to expose a lot of this stuff that's going on. And here we go. I'm going to share your video. Give me a minute, everybody here. And we're going to share ladyboule's video and let you hear what these white women have to say. One is from South Africa, and the other one is from the United States, as she says here. So let's go ahead and take a listen to what they are saying, because she's saying these white folks are cutting up.
Hello, this is Lady Boule, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you for your support. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your thumbs up, for your comments, and thank you for sharing the videos. Thank you for all you do to support the channel. And yes, we are commanded to love one another, whether we want to or not, or whether we agree with each other or not. Y'all, I thought I'd never see the day, but I have lived to see it. These white folks are cutting up over these South Africans. I have never seen so much white on white crime in my life in 1 week. And it's on both sides of the Atlantic. And I'm going to let them speak for themselves because it's interesting. I thought white people would have been, at least accepting of these people. And I know some are, but some of them are not. And they're not making any secret of it. So this is one time that we can just sit this out and let them handle it, because it seems like they want to handle this. So let's go all the way over to South Africa.
This is for the Americans. If you're not an American, feel free to watch, but please try and get it to the Americans. My name is Bianca van Wyk, born in South Africa, live in South Africa. Today you will be welcoming the so-called white Afrikaans refugees. They are there based on an offer made to them, which I must say was informed by disinformation about South Africa. Now, I've seen a lot of takes on who Americans think they are receiving. Okay, you are not getting successful, professional, white, middle class South Africans that are fleeing South Africa. The people you are getting are the people that believe that there is discrimination against them based on their race. Keep in mind, we live in the most unequal country in the world. We have, for instance, 70% of agricultural land and agricultural holdings are owned by white South Africans. 62 to 68% of top leadership positions in corporate are filled by white males. There is a huge salary disparity between white South Africans and the rest of the population. And there are a number of other indicators which shows you that this story of discrimination based on race is false. Another thing that I wanted to say is that you will get certain so-called refugees that have experienced crime. However, in South Africa, no one is exempt. These people that you are welcoming, assume because they're white, they should not experience crime. The people most affected by crime in South Africa happen to be black people that live in poverty. So as you open your doors and welcome people, and you're going to get a lot of information and disinformation from these people, please do keep that in mind. Oh, I also would like to say all the best and good luck to the Americans.
Well, she said a mouthful. Sounds like what she's saying is y'all are just getting the slugs, the bums of South Africa, regardless of what you think you're getting. And clearly, they have a huge sense of entitlement. They've got 70% of those people's land, but they want all of it. They don't think the South Africans should have any of the land. See, that's what it sounds like is they got 70% of those people's land. But they want all of it. They want all of it. If the South Africans, the actual South Africans, get any of the land, then they feel like they've been discriminated against. So basically, what I hear her saying is good riddance and good luck. Whoa. Well, let's come back to America and see what white Americans are saying about them.
This video is for the white Afrikaners who are coming to the United States. I think you've already landed here. And I know that some of the folks who met you at the airport told you, welcome, we're so glad you're here. Most of us aren't glad you're here, okay? We don't want you here. We never wanted you here. And furthermore, I noticed they're gonna settle you in Idaho, Ohio, and North Carolina. I will tell you they're not our finest states, so they're a good fit for you. I understand that many of you are farmers, and I've seen a lot of people say, oh, that's great, we need more farmers. Sorry to say we don't. We actually need farm workers because we've deported most of them. So if you can, put your picking hat on and think about, picking produce, that's largely probably what you're going to be doing here because I hear you don't have a lot of skills. I would also say that you're not going to have to hold just one job, but probably 2 or 3 to make up for your quality of life that you had back in South Africa. There will be no servants working for $2 a day. There's none of that here. So you're the servant who's working for $2 a day. So enjoy that. You're gonna have to pay for your health care, and ordinarily, because you're a refugee who's being discriminated against, you would go on Medicaid. But guess what? The Republicans just cut Medicaid. So I don't think you're going to have that option for health care. So maybe you'll do without. I don't know. And honestly, I don't care. I did notice that the Episcopalian Church had a program with the government where they would, they would resettle and help, refugees resettle. They find you all to be so onerous, they terminated the partnership with the government and they said, yeah, we won't be resettling those folks. Other things that you need to know about. While we are 58% white here in the United States, that's not going to last much longer. Within the next couple of years, we're going to be the minority, which will be fun for you because that's what you're used to. Interestingly enough, we have a ton of Latinos. We're the second largest Spanish-speaking country in the world. So for you, if you could stop speaking that dirty, guttural, whatever it is, German, French, Dutch thing that you speak, that Afrikaans, nobody wants to hear that shit. So you can speak English or you can speak Spanish, which is really the second language here. In terms of other things that you need to know about, the black people in this country, they don't get fucked with, okay? I know that there's a long legacy of colonialism and all kinds of stuff happening in your country, but our black folks have sort of been through the fire, if you will, and they're not going to be fucked with. So you're the minority here. Enjoy. I really hope you like your time here. I'm going to bet my ass that you're going to be booking it back to SA probably within the next 12 months. Have a great day.
Well, there's a lot being said about this on TikTok, and everybody sort of is up in arms about it because they had suspended the refugee program for everybody but these people. But again, I can't muster up any real energy for this because nothing that this man does, nothing that this administration does is going to surprise me. But now, they probably are going to be in for a surprise if they think they're going to come over here and have servants working for them for $2 a day. and they're farmers, but they really aren't farmers. Because I would like to know who's actually doing the work on those farms, because I'm willing to put money on the table that it's not them. Everybody comes to the United States thinking that they're going to be co-rulers with white people over black people. And that's probably what the Trump administration would like. But I think black people have already made it clear that a lot of this work they're not going to do. So it's going to be very interesting to see how these people fare. I don't think they're going to fare very well, and I don't think they're going to stay. I don't think they're all going to stay because they don't look like anybody that's done any real work. For one thing, they're old and they're overweight, and then they've got these little children who would have to become acclimated to a whole different culture that they don't know anything about, and it's not going to be anything like it was in South Africa, and it's going to cost a whole lot more money to live here. So if they don't have a pocket full of money, and this woman in the first video said they're not the best and the brightest of even the white South Africans. So we'll see how it all shakes out. But I just really can't get excited about it one way or the other, because as long as this administration is calling the shots, anything can happen, and it won't be anything good from my perspective. But anyway, y'all, let me know what you think about the video. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and have a great evening.
Okay, thank you, Lady Boule, because I do agree with you. What you're saying, they think they're going to have it made here, but probably not true. And the other lady said 24 months or 12 months or whatever, they will be going back, getting ready to get out of here. They may not have a place to go back to, because the South Africans may just say, hey, you left, you become citizens over there. President Trump made an exception for you when he clearly stated that he wasn't discriminating, when clearly he is discriminating against the Black Africans, because he's only allowing these white Africans to come over here. And those two white ladies have shared with you what their thoughts are, and they're probably right. So with that said, we have gone through the fire, as this one white woman said, as Black people. So whatever they're going to do, it's up to them. And I'm not shocked either. I'm a baby boomer. I've seen too much, been through too much, so I'm not shocked at anything that Trump does. Whatever he decides to do over the next 3 years or whatever it is time he has left to serve as president, I will not be shocked by anything that he does. So with that said, with all the deportations, and then he brings these people over here as quote unquote refugees when they are descendants of Dutch, French. They're not even really true South Africans. But anyhow, the church is not even accepting them. And let me share with you what the church had to say. Give me a moment here. Let's go to the church, and we're going to share what they had to say, because they're not buying into this lie either, because it's a lie, and they're not buying it either. So let's go back, and we're going to share the next video with you. Let me go and do something here real quick. Let me bring this one. Let me bring the other one in that I want to share with you. Let me make sure I close this one down completely. And we're going to bring in the next one. And again, thank you, Lady Boule. Appreciate that information. And I agree with you. So let's bring in the next video. And we're going to see what the church has to say about it, because they know that this is a lie from your president, that these people are not true refugees. And if he was really not being discriminatory on Black Africans, he would be bringing some of them in. But we know that is not the case. So let's share and see what the church has to say about it. because they ended their partnership. They're not having it because they see what's going on as well. They know that this is a lie and they are not buying into it, and they will not be a party to it because they have severed their relationship. And you can hear it from them. This is what this church has to say about it. So let's listen to that.
The reality is we felt like we cannot be ourselves as the Episcopal Church and take part in this step of resettling white Afrikaners from South Africa. The moral decision making for us has so much to do with the way in which this all took place. The refugee resettlement program, which we've been a part of for more than 40 years, was basically shut down in January. So almost no refugees have been admitted to the United States since the end of January. People that have been waiting for years and are still waiting, who have been of service to this country, who are persecuted, are waiting to receive entrance. And this particular group has been fast-tracked over top of all of these others. So right there, that's problematic. And really, it's hard to imagine they fit the definition of refugee by most definitions. The president can certainly determine who he wants to admit to the country, but it just doesn't align with our values at this point.
We don't want to see people be.
I don't know what the administration's motivations for it is. I can't speak to that. But what it appears to us is that some people are being privileged over others, and it appears that white people are being privileged over people of color for no real apparent reason that data at least shows. So we feel like it's a line we've been asked to cross. Our hand's been forced, and we feel like we're doing the honorable thing and just asking to be released from our obligations.
All right. They have bowed out of this lie because that's what it is. You've seen a person from South Africa speak that these people are not being persecuted. And President Trump is talking about how they're being murdered and they are discriminated against. They're not even farmers. They're not even skilled people, according to what the lady said that's from South Africa, the white South African. So with that said, I just wanted to share that with you because America is a hot mess right now, a real hot mess. It's been divided from its inception, and it has become worse and worse. And I'm not surprised at anything that President Trump does with this country as he is in leadership. He's our president. I didn't vote for him, but that's who he is. He is our president. And the country is a hot mess right now. It's divided worse than ever. And we'll see what the outcome will be. And again, I'm Louise Hicks, your host of this podcast, Aim to Purpose Spiritual Empowerment Hour. Please subscribe, give your comments, share, because more people need to know what is going on here across the world. This country is, as I remember one white lady said, gone to hell in a handbasket. And that seems to be what is going on right now. It's in a crisis. So share, subscribe. Thank you all for my supporters. I appreciate you. Much love to you. Leave your comments, give it a like, give it thumbs up. And I always tell you and remind you of 2 Timothy 1:7, for God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. I always leave you normally with that scripture, as well as letting you know that your power lies within you. Let it loose because your destiny is your command. And as ladyboule said, we don't have to do anything with this one. We're going to leave it to the white societies because it seems that President, from where I stand, wants to make America white again. That's what it appears to be, with totally white leadership pretty much like it has been. That's what his MAGA is all about. So I just removed the G and put the W, M-A-W, M-A-W-A, Make America White Again. With that said, again, I'm Louise Hicks. Please subscribe, share. The more information you get, the better your opportunities to observe, to participate, and just be you and serve a purpose to help make America more harmonious with more love, because that's what we need here. This is supposed to be a Christian nation, and I tell you, it's a hot mess here. So with that said, take care, much love. I will see you in the next video. And again, I'm Louise Hicks, your host of Aim to Purpose Spiritual Empowerment Hour. Take care.